Amazing twist. Homeless boy she saved reveals his transformative journey to become a billionaire. Jason crouched in the shadows of a narrow alleyway, the fading light dimming the remnants of a discarded fast food bag clutched tightly in his hand. It had been a long day, scuttling through the bustling streets of Chicago, weaving between towering buildings and indifferent pedestrians. A city that glittered with opportunity, yet held him like a prisoner of the pavement. With each half-bite of stale fries, his dreams felt distant, like the stars hidden behind the city's smog. He believed he might be someone who mattered, but trapped in this fleeting life, doubt clawed at his heart endlessly. When he first met Sarah, she had been a fleeting silhouette in his peripheral vision, a flash of kindness amidst a sea of hard faces. Her presence lingered like a warm sunset, an anomaly in his cold existence. She was everything he could only dream of being, hopeful, determined, and unbowed by her own burdens. But now, faced with the reality of his situation, the heartache he felt seemed insurmountable. His mind raced. How could a kid like him ever aspire to be an engineer, to chase the stars she ignited within him? Each moment spent with her was both a lifeline and a reminder of everything that separated them. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As he navigated through textbooks Sarah had given him, a knot twisted in his stomach. Excelling academically felt like swimming against a current. The rewards shimmered tantalizingly, yet were so far from reach. He often lay awake, tormented by a gnawing fear of failure. What if reaching these heights only opened doors to an elite world that would reject him? Paralyzed by the fear of being outperformed, of becoming a mere statistic, just another kid who didn't belong. The voices of his past taunted him, echoing doubt that he might not be able to escape the shadows of his origin. Then came the life-changing moment, the scholarship. It lifted him momentarily, but as he stood atop this newfound pedestal, the weight of expectation threatened to pull him under. With an opportunity to study biomedical engineering, he envisioned himself making waves in the world, yet whispers of his inadequacy lingered. What if he disappointed Sarah? What if her sacrifice was in vain? As he prepared to present his groundbreaking health startup idea, the thrill of validation intertwined with palpable dread. An investor loomed like a storm cloud, seeking to drain his intellectual capital, inching closer with each day. He was thrust into a moral battleground, whether to grasp for an imagined security or to honor the loyalty Sarah instilled in him. Caught between ambition and his ethics, Jason felt the walls closing in. Would he betray the very kindness that had set him on this path? With the cacophony of voices swirling in his head, he picked up his phone. One last connection. He needed to share this turmoil with Sarah, the one constant in his path of turmoil and transformation. He felt the urgency flood his veins, driven by the need for the compassion she had always provided. Would she still be proud of him if he lost his way? The weight of his future bore down on him. The time to unleash his reality pressing closer. Would he be able to remember the voice of gratitude amid the chaos that success brought? The cold metal of the phone felt foreign as Jason hesitated, his thumb hovering above Sarah's name. Each moment stretched thick with doubt, yet he knew he couldn't let fear dictate his choices. Instead, he pressed the call button, but before the ringing could break the silence, he pulled the phone away, guilt swirling inside him like an unsettling storm. The weight of the sacrifice that allowed him to pursue his dreams was painfully tangible, and he grappled with the realization that reaching out meant confronting his insecurities head-on. He paced the alley, each step a reminder of where he had been and who he wanted to become. The thought of sharing his pitch with investors felt more daunting than he could handle. The image of Sarah watching him falter lingered in his mind. Would she see him as a failure if he stumbled? The fear of disappointing her crawled under his skin. But to not pursue this opportunity, that would mean wasting everything she believed in. A surge of anger ignited within him, the kind that came from realizing he was his own worst enemy. He had to stop allowing his past to determine his future. With renewed determination, Jason let the incoming call return to his thoughts, the internal battle intensifying as he considered how to present himself to the world. He needed to find a way to fuse his ambition with the values Sarah had instilled within him. He envisioned her unwavering support and the fierce glint in her eyes that dared him to defy expectations. But before he could confront this vision, remnants of his needy ego flooded over him. What if his idea wasn't good enough? What if the investors could see straight through him and recognized him for the fraud he feared he was? Jason inhaled sharply, the air heavy with the suburban twilight. He needed to reframe his narrative. The past few weeks have been a roller coaster filled with preparation and late nights poring over spreadsheets, coding examples, and business plans. Each piece of his startup was a brick in the wall. He was trying to build around himself a wall that defined safety, ambition, and a future he now held more sacred than ever. As the clock ticked closer to the investor meeting, he needed to find a tangible aspect of determination, something he could physically focus upon. He glanced down at the worn-out notebook where he had scribbled notes and ideas, messy, chaotic, and utterly authentic, just like him. It dawned on him that he wasn't just presenting a startup. He was sharing a part of himself, a mosaic crafted from fragments of pain, resilience, and dreams. With a fresh clarity, Jason realized that each word he would utter in that meeting could echo his journey, transforming who he was. He was not just another kid without resources. He was a walker between worlds, armed with insight born from hardship. Determined, he finally dialed Sarah's number, the pulse of his heart quickening. As the phone rang, he steeled himself, drawn to her voice that had always soothed his anxieties. But when she answered, her playful laughter that filled the void made him pause. The color of possibility surged within him, and with fresh clarity, he took a breath. "Sarah, I need to talk to you." I'm standing at a crossroads, but just as he began to speak, an unknown number flashed across his screen, cutting through the moment of connection he was seeking. Anxiety surged within him again, blurring the line between his newly found courage and the uncertainty that accompanied it. Would this call further unravel his intention, or could it be an opportunity he hadn't anticipated? The moment of truth suddenly felt closer than he'd ever imagined. Would he step into the meeting room, ready to embrace his potential, or would he buckle under the pressure of an unknown future? The silence held its breath, waiting for Jason to decide. Jason's heart raced as he hesitated between the two calls. The unknown number taunted him, promising both potential opportunity and overwhelming risk. He could hear Sarah's voice trapped in his mind, urging him to take the leap, yet a swirl of discomfort pulled him back. He finally swiped the screen, answering the unknown caller. "Hello." His voice betrayed him, crackling from uncertainty. "Is this Jason Thompson?" A deep voice asserted, calm and professional. "Yes," he replied, forcing the words out, trying to project confidence. "This is Tom Becker from Venture Capital Partners. We received your pitch deck. I'd like to discuss your proposal further." Jason's breath hitched. Opportunities like this came rarely, yet his gut twisted. What if this call was just a prelude to his downfall? What if he fumbled through the conversation, revealing himself as the fraud he feared he was? "Are you there?" Tom's voice broke through Jason's spiral of doubt. "Oh, yes. I'd love to discuss it," he managed, feeling surges of adrenaline and anxiety warring within him. As the conversation unfolded, Tom asked pointed questions that Jason had anticipated but struggled to answer. Each query felt like a magnifying glass, scrutinizing his narrative and his intentions. Had he done enough research? Was his market analysis robust? For every nervous stutter, Jason recalled the hours he spent refining his pitch, preparing to showcase his idea as a vibrant, engaging vision. Clenching his fists under the table, he steeled his resolve to address the concerns. Here was his chance to prove not just to Tom, but to himself, that he was worthy of this moment. I believe the key to my startup is not just the platform we're creating, but the community it fosters, he stated, confidence gradually weaving into his words. We're addressing a real need here. The market is thirsty for a solution that uplifts not just consumers, but also creators. Tom's silence loomed before him like a light at the end of a long tunnel. The man's contemplative tone, when he finally responded, sent jolts of both excitement and dread through Jason. Your passion comes through, but I need more than enthusiasm. Prove to me there's a plan behind it. That shift in tone sparked something within Jason, a certainty that ignited a fire he hadn't fully known existed. He had spent too long living in shadows, allowing doubt to cloud his vision. With a renewed cadence, he dove deeper into his financial forecasts, market demographics, and potential partnerships. Each figure and statistic led him closer to a greater understanding of his dream, transforming abstract aspirations into concrete realities. But even as he laid out his vision, he couldn't evade the voice that taunted him from the back of his mind. Who does he think he is, believing he can negotiate his way into a world filled with seasoned experts? What if he didn't belong? All right, I see there is potential here, came Thomas' ultimate verdict. Let us take this to the next step. I need you to present in front of the partners next week. Can you do that? Jason's heart pounded in response, oscillating between triumph and terror. Yes, absolutely. After they hung up, he sat in stunned silence. Tremors of triumph cascaded through him, but they were quickly shadowed by the growing pressure of what was to come. He had a week to prove himself, to explore every facet of his idea, dissect his insecurities, and stand before a room filled with potential investors, a challenge that felt simultaneously electrifying and daunting. Realizing he couldn't shoulder this burden alone, he needed Sarah. She had been his anchor through dark times, and now he had to invite her back into his life as an ally. Pulling up her contact again, he couldn't help but think, could she believe it in the way he was beginning to believe in himself? With a fortifying breath, he pressed dial, ready to share both his fears and his newfound determination. But as the call connected, he suddenly froze. What if she hadn't been waiting for this moment? What if she had moved on, questioning the dream they once shared? The uncanny silence on the line only deepened his trepidation. Would he find comfort in the voice he loved, or would it open doorways to unspoken truths that could shatter his newfound confidence? Jason's future hung in balance as the call connected, and silence loomed heavy with uncertainty. The line crackled, and Jason's heartbeat echoed in his ears as the silence dragged on. Every passing second felt like a countdown, a reminder of his insecurities. Would she answer? Would he even know how to articulate the whirlwind of emotions surging within him? Jason? Finally, Sarah's voice pierced the tension, warm yet edged with curiosity. Hey, it's me, he managed, surprised by how shaky his voice sounded. Wow, I didn't expect to hear from you. What is up? There it was, the familiar comfort of her presence, but it was laced with the ambiguity of what had become of their past. He inhaled deeply, summoning the courage he mustered just moments earlier. I have a lot on my mind. I need to talk about my proposal. It just got picked up by venture capital partners. He could hear her intake of breath, a fleeting moment of surprise before she transitioned into supporter mode. That's incredible, Jason. I knew you'd go for it, but you sound nervous. A twinge of embarrassment welled in him. Yeah, well, I have to present in front of their partners next week. It's a big deal. Then why don't we meet? I can help you prepare. His gut sparked with both relief and anxiety. He had missed her undeniable support, but her presence also brought a flood of reminders about their unresolved history. A part of him questioned whether he deserved her belief in him. Are you sure you want to? I don't want to drag you into my chaos. Jason, don't be ridiculous. You deserve this. You've always, I know, but what if you're just saying that? The words tumbled out before he could stop them. A pause followed, then Sarah responded softly, I'm saying it because I mean it. You've worked hard, and you're ready for this. Trust yourself. He remained silent, trapped between the weight of past burdens and the flicker of new hope igniting in his chest. Maybe we should meet somewhere special like the cafe we used to like, she suggested. It could help you regain that energy. Sure, that sounds great. As they hung up, Jason leaned back in his chair, battling an internal struggle. The familiar setting of that cafe would dredge up memories, both comforting and painful, of days spent brainstorming and dreaming together. But accepting Sarah's help felt like stepping toward a resolution he had initially feared. With renewed focus, Jason set about forming a structured plan for his presentation. He spent the next couple of days diving deep into every aspect of his startup, revising his pitch, honing his financial forecasts, and rehearsing relentlessly. Yet, with each meticulous detail, the haunting question remained, was it enough? As the week trudged on, he found himself tossing and turning at night, his mind racing with what-ifs. Suddenly, the looming presentation didn't feel like a chance of a lifetime, but rather a precipice that could send him spiraling. Finally, the evening arrived. He sat across from Sarah at their old cafe, the air thick with nostalgia. Her encouraging smile was like a life buoy amid his turbulent sea of self-doubt. Okay, let us run through it, she proposed, her eyes glistening with excitement. As he began to explain his business model, a surprising shift unfurled within him. Each slide of his pitch began to reflect a part of his growing confidence, showcasing not just the business value, but his desire for transformation both personally and professionally. And as Sarah probed him with questions, he found himself adapting and refining his answers, evolving on the spot from merely selling an idea into passionately sharing a vision. Throughout the session, he discovered the hidden capability he had to speak with authenticity and meaning. No longer was he simply a passive presenter. He was a leader advocating for his concept, unearthing skills he never fully appreciated. But just as he started to feel invincible, Sarah turned serious. Jason, if you succeed, things might change between us. The vulnerability in her voice sent a jolt through him. Had he truly considered what success might mean? The curiosity about their personal relationship nudged at him, intertwining with his ambition. Jason took a breath. The time had come to confront the intersection of his dreams and his heart. How could he navigate both landscapes without losing sight of himself in the process? Tomorrow, when he stood before the partners, would determine not just his professional future, but potentially the outcome of his unresolved feelings towards Sarah. The stakes had never been higher, and now he was standing at the edge of two critical truths. Would he embrace triumph, and could he reconcile it with the intricacies of love? With the cafe fading into the background, he realized this was only the beginning of a much larger journey, one that would shape not just his career, but every facet of his life moving forward. The moment of truth was on the horizon, and with it came the crucial realization that the fight for both his dream and his connection with Sarah had only begun. As dawn broke the following day, Jason felt the heaviness of the world pressing down on him. He was awake before the sun, wrapped in a cocoon of anxiety. The relentless tick of the clock in his kitchen echoed in his mind, each second marking the time left before his pivotal moment. Staring at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, he couldn't shake the feeling that the man staring back was a stranger. He was a mix of hope and dread, ambition and self-doubt, all swirled into one that dressing for the presentation felt like suiting up for battle. He meticulously chose his outfit, each piece carefully curated to exude confidence and professionalism. Yet, as he pulled on his blazer, a wave of uncertainty washed over him. Was he ready to be this version of himself? The entrepreneur he had only dreamed of being, now just hours from reality. On his ride to the pitch meeting, he replayed his practice lines over and over in his mind. But even the familiar cadence of his words felt hollow against the mounting pressure. What if he faltered? What if the partners saw through his rehearsed exterior and recognized the insecurities lurking underneath? Arriving at the sleek high-rise where Venture Capital Partners was located, he took a deep breath, ground his feet against the concrete as if anchoring himself, and tried to quell the storm raging within him. The office exuded success, a lavish expanse filled with polished surfaces and understated opulence, each detail meticulously chosen to communicate power. His heart raced, whispering fears of inadequacy. Sitting in a lobby, he watched groups of people enter and exit, all seemingly brushes of confidence. Each moment felt others were moving toward their goals, while he sat immobilized by anticipation. The ticking clock reminded him this was more than a business meeting. It was a leap into a new identity. When he was finally ushered into the conference room, the sharp contrast of the sleek environment intensified his nerves. He stood before a rectangular table where the partners sat, their gazes expectant yet inscrutable, evaluating him not only as a presenter but as a potential leader. He felt their eyes drilling into his psyche. He began, striving to channel the fervor he felt the night before while practicing with Sarah. Words flowed in a steady stream, painting the landscape of his vision, a technology startup aimed at redefining how communities interacted with sustainable innovations. As he spoke, he could see nods of understanding, moments of intrigue flickering across faces. Just as he felt himself gaining momentum, a partner interjected. "Interesting concept, Jason. But what does your competitive landscape look like? How will you stand out when challengers arise?" It was a question that struck directly at his core, and rather than retreat into the comfortable responses he had rehearsed, Jason leaned in. "That's a great point. I've analyzed similar companies, and I believe our distinctive approach is rooted in three key pillars: user engagement, innovation agility, and community impact. But ultimately, it's about connecting emotionally with our users. It's something I'm passionate about, not just because it's business, but because I truly believe in making a difference." A tremor of certainty washed over him in that moment. The energy was shifting. He wasn't just reciting facts. He was sharing a piece of himself. The acknowledgement of his own conviction radiated a newfound authority. Yet, as he concluded his presentation, a different kind of tension clung to the air. One of the partners, a tall woman with sharp features, leaned forward. "You speak passionately about the why, but how do you plan to ensure scalability? Emotion 1T always drive profit." The question cut deeper than he anticipated. It tapped an unguarded well of vulnerability. Wasn't part of him still trapped in the fear of failure? He hesitated, momentarily lost between his ambition and the reality of the competitive world outside. As the conversation continued, he felt a desire to reclaim that early connection with Sarah. The memory of their last conversation anchored him, guiding his thoughts back to both his ambitions and his deeper motivations. He realized he needed to convey resilience, not just enthusiasm. When it was over, he left the room with a sense of exhilaration mixed with uncertainty. This was just the beginning. No matter how the partners responded, he had taken significant strides into a new phase of his life. Alone in the elevator, he allowed himself to breathe deeply, relishing in the raw realization that he was not merely chasing success. He was crafting a legacy. But amid that exhilaration, Sarah's earlier words echoed in his mind. "If you succeed, things might change between us." The implications settled in, creating a gnawing doubt that lingered as the elevator door opened. Jason still had to confront not only the realities of his career, but the complexities of his relationship with Sarah, and he knew he would soon have to decide what mattered most to him. Would he embrace the change, regardless of the consequences? He stepped into the bustling lobby, uncertainty trailing behind him. The moment was still not resolved. Life was now demanding a choice, one that promised to irrevocably shift his future, both professionally and personally. As the elevator doors slid open, Jason felt the cacophony of the lobby wash over him like a current. Conversations swirled around, but every word felt muted against his pounding heartbeat. He made his way outside, where the city stretched before him in a dizzying panorama of ambition and activity. The sun beamed down in sharp contrast to the shadows of doubt lurking in his mind. He had expected a mixture of exhilaration and fear to accompany his presentation, but what surprised him was the underlying clarity that had emerged. The response from the partners had left questions in his mind, not just about his startup, but about his own capacity for change. He combed through his thoughts, each question revealing layers of uncertainty and potential as he walked down the street. He pulled out his phone, instinctively checking for any messages from Sarah. Nothing. The silence felt heavy, compounding his sense of disconnection. Their last talk weighed on him more heavily than the meeting had, her words urging him to consider the aftershocks of his success. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that he was stepping into a new reality, both thrilling and terrifying. Returning home, he dropped his bag and sank into the couch, staring at the walls that had witnessed his struggles and dreams alike. He considered his future. What did success look like if it meant losing connection with the people who mattered? Was he ready to redefine those relationships in light of newfound independence? He was still grappling with his budding identity as an entrepreneur, and now he had to reconcile the implications of that identity with his relationships. The whir of his laptop brought him back to the present. He clicked it open, his mind lighting up at the hundreds of ideas he had been jotting down pre-pitch. Each represented not merely a business concept, but a piece of himself. Refocusing his energy, he set to work, crafting insights into his market analysis, researching organic engagement strategies, and understanding what scalability genuinely entailed for his vision. But as the words flowed, a nagging doubt arose. Was he merely hiding behind spreadsheets and metrics? He had spoken passionately in the boardroom, but was he truly ready to embrace the reality of entrepreneurship when push came to shove? As he recorded each thought, he could almost feel a tension building inside him, like a tightly coiled spring waiting to release. The clock ticked steadily, reminding him of how much time slipped away with each moment spent lost in thought. He hovered over his phone, debating whether to message Sarah. Instead, he pushed down the inclination. If they were to navigate this new terrain together, he needed to confront the truth within himself first, rather than seeking reassurance or understanding from her. Suddenly, a thought struck him like lightning. What if he could involve her in the business? Sarah had insights that complemented his abilities. Their chemistry was not just emotional. Their perspectives balanced each other uniquely. After her initial hesitation, what if she could become integral to his journey, not just as a partner in life, but in this new venture? Jason grabbed a notepad and began sketching ideas. If they were aligned professionally, could that restore balance to their relationship? Would it create an opportunity to flourish in both areas of their lives? The notion brought with it the kind of thrill he had just begun to understand in the conference room, a possibility that made his pulse quicken with expectation. Still buzzing with renewed purpose, he moved to set up a meeting with Sarah. It was time for a bold conversation, a chance to redefine more than just his career, but also their partnership. How would she react to an invitation into his entrepreneurial world? Would she leap at the opportunity or pull away, fearing the complications it might bring? As he drafted the message, on the brink of sending it, uncertainty surged back. The implications of success, their relationship, and the professional partnership collided, igniting fresh waves of conflict within him. What if his ambition irrevocably reshaped their dynamic? He hesitated, the screen glinting in front of him like a portal to unknown futures. The gravity of the moment settled in. He needed to decide, was he willing to risk it all for the possibility of something greater, or would he allow fear to hold him back from what could define not only his career, but the essence of who he was to become? The click of the keyboard echoed in the stillness of the room. Just as he gathered his breath to finalize his decision, the phone rang, breaking through the silence. Jason's heart raced. The voice on the other end could change everything, whether it was the partner from the pitch, an unexpected opportunity, or someone entirely unanticipated. In this moment of hesitation, he grappled with the undeniable truth. The time had come to face the choices that would redefine the life he had constructed. Jason swallowed hard as he answered the phone, trying to steady his racing heartbeat. It was a familiar voice, yet he hadn't expected to hear it. It was Alex, his former mentor, and someone he had looked up to for years, the very person who had inspired his leap into entrepreneurship. "Hey, Jason, I heard about your pitch today, Alex said, his tone sharp with intrigue. Your making waves already tell me everything. Jason felt a surge of pride. He began recounting the highlights, the excitement in his voice lifting the weight of doubt that had settled around him for days. Alex's questions pushed him to delve deeper into his vision, forcing him to articulate his goals with clarity he and T realized he possessed. Impressive, really, Alex said, a hint of enthusiasm breaking through. But I can't help but wonder what's your contingency plan? At this stage, it's crucial to consider your fail-safes. Build the foundation strong. Jason's mind spun. I have some ideas, but I haven't nailed anything down yet, he admitted, insecurity creeping in again. How do you even begin to think about that level of risk? Understand your core values, what you're willing to risk, what you aren't, Alex advised. And make sure to let the people who matter in your life be part of that strategy. His words cut through Jason's haze of indecision like a sharpened knife. He thought of Sarah and the potential partnership he de-envisioned, a fusion that could transform both their lives. But the gnawing fear returned. What if bringing her into this world complicated things instead? He was now standing on the precipice of defining not just his business, but their intertwined futures as well. After they hung up, Jason was left with a sense of urgency. He pulled up his laptop again, the screen illuminating ideas he had glossed over before the notes about Sarah, her unique skill set, her perspectives. Each bullet point sparked a sense of possibility intertwined with fear. What had once seemed daunting now felt like a puzzle he wanted to solve, a chance to collaborate and grow side by side. But was he ready to ask her? The thought of throwing their relationship into the mix was both exhilarating and terrifying. I need to set this right, he muttered to himself, the conviction unfurling deep within. He opened a blank document, ready to craft a proposal that would lay out not only the business model, but also a future path for both of them. The hours slipped away as he poured his thoughts onto the page, her strengths, the incomparable synergy they could unleash, and though he hesitated, the words began to breathe life into dreams he thought were drifting into impossibility. Each idea solidified this was more than just a career move. It was a step toward rebuilding trust and connection. That he paused, realizing that clarity was not just in business strategies, but in personal truths too. His heart raced with a mixture of fear and hope. He had to be genuine to express not only the potential of the business, but how much he valued her role in his life. Just as he prepared to send the message to Sarah, there was another call. This time it was an unknown number. He hesitated, the anxiety pooling in his stomach. In his line of work, unknowns could mean opportunities or setbacks. Gathering his breath, he answered, "Hello." The voice on the other end was passionate and compelling. "Jason," it said with gravity, "we need to talk about your startup. I believe you have the potential for something unprecedented." At that moment, Jason realized he was on the brink of something transformative. This call could be the opportunity he'd been waiting for, or a clash with a demanding reality. Would he pursue this new lead and risk losing focus on Sarah? "Tell me more," he replied, adrenaline surging through him. As the words flowed, he felt the walls of his carefully organized world shake, an unsettling storm brewing on the horizon. The need to confront not just the business threats ahead, but the complexities of his relationships was clearer than ever. What would this lead mean for his partnership? With Sarah? Would he still be able to build their future while chasing an unforeseen opportunity? With each question echoing in his mind, he prepared to face the crossroads where both ambition and love collided, knowing that the next leap he took could define not just his career, but also his heart. Jason leaned back in his chair, the phone still pressed to his ear. The voice on the other end painted vivid pictures of opportunities and partnerships that sent pulses of hope coursing through him. The allure of uncharted territory was tantalizing, yet it also felt like quicksand, threatening to pull him away from the very foundation he needed to build with Sarah. "Let us meet tomorrow," the caller insisted, their tone an urgent whisper that flickered like a candle in the dark. "Your idea has the potential to revolutionize this industry, but we need to act fast." Jason felt a ripple of excitement clash against the anxiety tightening in his chest. He had always craved validation, and here it was, wrapped in a package of potential partnership. Yet was this worth the risk, the potential fallout with Sarah looming dangerously in the background? He wanted to run after this lead, to chase it down with fervor, but the thought of jeopardizing his relationship hung heavy in the air. "Okay, I'm in. Let us do it," he replied, his voice steady yet internally clashing with uncertainty. As he hung up, he couldn't shake the double-edged sword of ambition and uncertainty from slicing too deeply into his thoughts. He knew he should be drafting a proposal for Sarah, yet here he was, teetering on the precipice of an enticing yet unknown opportunity. He grabbed a coffee, needing something to ground him as the clock ticked ominously toward morning the time he had promised to meet Sarah in a bid to align their future. In the quiet moments that followed, Jason watched the sun begin to rise, the shades of orange and pink spilling through his window like the light dawning on a new idea. He took a deep breath and reflected on Alex's advice, the need to balance risk with emotional clarity. What if he used this moment, not just as a way to advance his career, but as a litmus test for his relationship with Sarah? Setting his laptop aside, he grabbed a notebook and began to outline the meeting for the next day. He wasn't about to walk into this meeting unprepared. This wasn't merely about presenting an idea. It was about defining his path and deciding what kind of person he wanted to be for himself and for Sarah. By the time he was ready for bed, Jason had crafted a plan. He'd meet with the potential investor and listen carefully. He'd bring the opportunity back to Sarah, and together they could determine their shared path. Could this collaboration actually strengthen their relationship instead of complicating it? He believed it could, yet doubt nagged stubbornly at the edges of his resolve. Morning arrived too quickly, and he arrived at the cafe, heart racing as he awaited Sarah. She walked in, a vision of determination tempered with warmth, everything he admired about her. Sliding into the booth, she looked expectantly at him. "Hey, you've been quiet," Sarah remarked as she sipped her coffee. "What's on your mind?" "Actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about something," Jason began, hesitating at the weight of his words. He felt the pressure of the moment, the importance of being open. "There's an opportunity I'm considering, and I want to include you in the decision-making." Instead of intrigued, her brow furrowed in concern. "What kind of opportunity? Will it take you away from us? From what we're building together?" Jason paused, realizing she wasn't merely reacting to the changes. She was assessing everything they had envisioned together. "It's not risk without rewards. But I need to understand what you think." "What we think?" Sarah leaned back, arms crossing as she absorbed what he said. The tension hung between them, a tightrope stretched thin. Just as the conversation climbed to its summit, Jason's phone buzzed, a reminder of the meeting looming ahead. Would this moment undulate with potential or fracture his most cherished bond? His hands trembled as he glanced at the screen. The name of the prospective partner blinked ominously in a world grappling for clarity. The crossroads before him felt heavier now, a tipping point of influence and desire. Sarah's gaze pierced through the lingering uncertainty. Jason felt time pause, the air thick with questions only he could answer. What would he decide? How far was he willing to go to forge a future that honored both his aspirations and the woman sitting before him? The moment had arrived to confront his fears, and he could either embrace the unknown or retreat into the safety of familiarity. With a deep breath, he prepared to confront the direction that would define not just his career, but his heart as well. Jason's pulse quickened as the weight of the decision settled in his chest. The cafe buzzed with the chatter of other patrons, the aroma of fresh coffee mingling with the tension that hummed in the air between him and Sarah. He studied her face, searching for solace amid the turmoil. This was a moment that would shape not just his career, but the very fabric of their relationship. "Jason, if this opportunity means that much to you, why are you hesitating?" Sarah's voice sliced through the noise, piercing his mental fog. "You seem distracted." He opened his mouth to respond, but the words caught in his throat. Honesty should be easy, but the stakes felt monumental. I want to believe this could be good for us, but what if it means losing what we built together? Maybe we can build something new? She suggested, her brow softening slightly. I trust you, but you need to take me along on this journey. I don't want to feel like you're leaving me behind. The sincerity in her eyes ignited something within him, a blend of admiration and conviction. The possibility of involving her as a partner in this venture suddenly felt like the light in the fog. Perhaps this was not just a leap into the unknown, but a collaborative ascent toward a shared dream. Yet, could they really intertwine their personal and professional lives without unraveling the threads of their relationship? Silent contemplation enveloped him as he pieced together a plan in his mind. What if I take this meeting, hear them out, and then we decide together about the next steps? I value your insight, it's crucial. Her lips pressed into a thin line, weighing the offer. I'm okay with that, but you have to promise not to let this lead to more distance between us. I need to be a part of this, Jason. I want you to succeed, but I also want us to succeed. In that moment, a clearer vision illuminated his path. This wasn't simply about him anymore. It was about forming a partnership that could fuel not only his ambitions, but their shared dreams. The prospect of accepting the investor's offer suddenly felt less daunting with Sarah by his side, yet it still required an undeniable act of courage. All right, Jason said slowly, an ember of determination stoked into a flame. I'll go to the meeting, and afterward we'll sit down and hash out the pros and cons. But more than that, I'll make sure you're in the loop every step of the way. With a renewed sense of purpose, he felt the anxiety replace itself with excitement. They were no longer facing this crossroad individually. They were stepping into it together, committed to building a shared future. The moment shifted as Jason received another buzz on his phone. This time, it was a message from the potential partner, confirming their meeting details. He looked back to Sarah, who wore a small, tentative smile, and lifted his coffee cup in a gesture of solidarity. Here's to us, then, to new beginnings. Their glasses clinked softly, but beneath that reassuring sound, his internal compass was still spinning. Was this an opportunity, or merely a potential pitfall dressed up as promise? He couldn't shake off the gnawing doubt that they might encounter challenges that would stretch them apart. As they finished their coffees, he felt a knot of anticipation coil tightly in his stomach. With each tick of the clock, he understood that he was about to cross a threshold that he couldn't uncross, charging into a future laden with uncertainties, but also ripe with possibilities. Let us head out, he finally said, standing up. How had it come to this? Each decision would create ripple effects, forging new paths, some potentially leading away from each other. Jason wasn't just anxious about the meeting. He was apprehensive about the implications for their shared dreams. What new challenges awaited them on this journey? Would they emerge together, stronger, or would this be the beginning of an unforeseen struggle? As they walked out into the bustling street, uncertainties loomed like towering skyscrapers in a crowded skyline. He glanced at Sarah, who seemed ready to face anything, even the shadows. The line between opportunity and risk blurred further with each step. And just as the world opened up before them, Jason's phone buzzed again, this time flashing an unexpected name: their old mentor, the one who had warned him about mixing business with pleasure. What exactly did this callback mean for their future as a couple? Would it alter his choices irrevocably? Jason strode into the conference room, every nerve in his body humming with expectation. The investors from venture capital partners sat assembled, their expressions masked, but their eyes glimmered with a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. He felt the weight of their gaze pierce through him, chipping away at the walls of confidence he had built. Yet amid the pounding of his heart, he was no longer just a homeless boy on the brink of discovering himself. He was an innovator poised to present a vision that could shape lives. As he began to speak, a strange sense of calm washed over him. The pitch wasn't just about numbers or profit margins. It was about the purpose that fueled his journey. We're addressing a community need, he declared, his voice steady. Our startup isn't merely a product. It's about empowering people through technology and compassion. He witnessed nods of approval, the investment partners leaning in with intrigue. And no longer did he feel like an imposter. Clarity infused his speech, punctuating each key point with conviction. In that moment, he confirmed that he deserved to be there not as a mere statistic, but as a beacon of perseverance and possibility. When he concluded, the investors were visibly engaged. Their questions, while penetrating, felt less like zealous scrutiny and more like genuine inquiries into his vision. The dialogue that followed was spirited, flourishing into an exchange of ideas that galvanized Jason's resolve. With every articulate response, he dispelled the doubts that had once haunted him. Realizing he had transformed into a credible candidate worthy of their support, he exited. Exhilaration enveloped him, cleansing the lingering stains of insecurity. The journey from the shadows of the alleyway to standing toe-to-toe with industry leaders crystallized his growth. No longer did he fear disappointing Sarah. Instead, he was now committed to crafting a future that could potentially intertwine their paths. And 5 days later, he received the coveted call, a partnership offer that exceeded his expectations. With a handshake solidified and the ink on the contract drying under his name, Jason felt a tide of validation wash over him. They were set to commence their first project. Success was no longer a distant concept, but an imminent reality as he rushed to meet Sarah, urgency driving his steps. The cafe bustled with familiar energy, yet their conversation held a tangible threshold of anticipation. As she walked in, her eyes sparkled with delight, but shadowed by unasked questions. "You look different," she observed. "What happened at the meeting?" Laughter bubbled out of him, an expression of joy he had almost forgotten how to unleash. "We secured funding. They believe in us." He reveled in her beaming smile, a reflection of their combined aspirations. "But it's not just about me, Sarah. I want you in this. Your insights are invaluable." Instead of elation, she hesitated. "Jason, I appreciate that, but I don't want to be a footnote in a story that's all about you," she challenged, her eyes narrowing. The stakes hung palpably between them. "No, this is about us," he insisted, the fervor of his emotions edging closer to the surface. "You are the reason I chased this dream. I want you on board. Your voice is crucial. Together, we can redefine what we envisioned." An energy shifted in the air, electrifying the dialogue. As they mapped their business together, his vision expanded to incorporate her incredible gifts. She had always been the spark that ignited his passion, and now, as they transformed the dynamics of their professional relationship, Jason felt the clarity of their intertwined futures emerge. The walls he had built around his insecurities crumbled further with every brainstorming session. Through shared late nights, laughter, and the greening of ideas, what began as a fragile dream solidified into a burgeoning enterprise. Their ambitions fueled one another, morphing into a partnership grounded in trust, friendship, and a shared vision that transcended both obstacles and fears. Months later, as they stood in front of a well-attended launch event, the realization enveloped him he wasn't merely showcasing a startup. Together with Sarah, he was fostering a community, creating solutions with impact. This was more than individual achievement. It was a testament to their journey. The moment was further immortalized when Sarah turned to him amidst the cheering crowd. "We did this together, Jason," she whispered, the proud tone draping over their shared dreams. "Actually, I couldn't have done this without you," he replied, a satisfied smile emanating from the depth of his fulfilled ambitions. Never would he perceive himself as just a homeless boy. He had conquered adversities, transformed them into achievements, and redefined his identity with purpose and vision. Jason had risen, armed not only with courage and resolve, but also alongside the person who had always believed in him, one he was now proud to call a partner. As the world around him flickered with possibilities, he recognized that every moment of doubt had once held purpose, propelling him toward greatness. Ready to take their next steps together, Jason realized it was never just about creating a business. It was about the journey of reimagining who they could become, hand in hand. "Don't forget, You need to subscribe now to stay updated on more remarkable stories of personal triumph. Leave a like now to support this channel and keep these narratives alive. Comment below with your thoughts and theories about Jason and Sarah's evolving journey. And remember, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need inspiration on their paths to overcoming obstacles. The power of personal transformation is just a click away.